Picture in your mind someone who has political views that are the complete opposite of your own. And as far as possible, picture someone, an actual person, and not some hypothetical person. And ask yourself this simple question: can you listen to this person speak about their political views? I'm an engineer, and my kind likes to get pretty specific. So what do I mean by listening? True listening is an act of love. It means that you give the other person your undivided attention, and there's no other thought in your head. And when you're talking about political stuff, pretty good listening is rare. Usually people are interrupting each other left and right, and even when people are silent, they're actually formulating thoughts in their head about how to poke holes in the other person's argument, what to say next when it is their turn to speak, and so on. That's not listening. And so many conversations on important topics these days happens via angry exchanges on Facebook comment section. Or worse yet, they happen via bumper stickers on cars. And now more than ever, we have really stopped listening and talking to each other. And that's a bad thing, because when you stop talking to the other side, you start to demonize them. And when you demonize the other side, you stop talking to them even more, which means you demonize them even more. And in engineering, we call this a positive feedback loop. It usually does not end well. And I have a small story to tell you about this. That's something that happened to me personally. And this March, I participated in the Albany March for Science. It is an annual event that promotes science and scientific research and such. Happens in the Capitol building grounds in Albany. It was a cold and extremely windy day, and turnout was rather small. But what I did not know was that another march was scheduled for the exact same time at the exact same place. And this was a march in support of gun rights. Now you'd think that science and gun rights don't really conflict with each other. I mean, after all, a good bit of science is involved in the making of guns and other weapons. But nonetheless, these two groups that usually don't have a lot of things in common, politically speaking, were suddenly put in the same place at the same time. And there was a lot of shouting back and forth, one-liners and slogans being thrown about back and forth. It was not dangerous, and it didn't get ugly, but it got extremely uncomfortable. And I remember looking at the people from the gun group. It was a mostly white crowd, and there was a lot of flags about. One of them was a Confederate flag. And I remember feeling extremely scared of all these people. And I'm not alone in feeling like this. There is research from the Pew Research Center that found out that among the two political parties, the share of people in each party that have highly negative views of the other party has more than doubled since 1994. And some of these intense partisans, they view the actions of the other party as so dangerous that they think it threatens the nation's well-being. It goes both ways. Both parties think the same way. My own story has a kind of a different ending. After the marches were finished, one of the people from the gun group came over to our group. He had this kind of camouflage type outfit, And he said he wanted to talk to us about our views and why we are not in favor of gun rights. And this guy was a good listener. We talked long, about like 1 hour or 1.5 hours or something like that. And I think what followed was a good conversation between two Americans who love their country in each their own way. And at some point I felt somewhat emboldened, and I told my new friend, take me to your camp. I want to go to your, and go to see your people. And he said, why not? Let's go. So he starts walking me, and I'm walking towards a bunch of mostly white people, in all probability have a lot of guns with them. And at some point, I thought like, hey, I don't think this is such a good idea. I'm not going to come there. And he said, okay, no, you're with me. They know me, and I know you. Nothing's going to happen. Come with me. So I went. I went straight into the core of the gun group. And it was interesting to talk to them. And I found out that, like, as a liberal person, I have my own misconceptions. Like, I have a tendency to lump together a lot of people, like people who are overtly racist and people who don't support evolution and gun people, like put them all together in one group, whereas it's not so. The group was not very homogeneous. There were people of color there. There were both men and women there. And their views were not homogeneous, even when it came to gun rights. Not all that surprising, given that in my own liberal world, there's all kinds of opinions, and we are not a homogeneous group, so there's no reason to expect them to be homogeneous. And, but let me get one thing extremely clear. My views on gun control have not changed. I'm still an extremely strong proponent of gun control. And I doubt that I managed to change any of their views either. The idea to have these conversations is not to just have evidence back and forth and try to change the other person's point of view. The intent here is to build bridges and friendships despite our differences. And then back to research. There's a nice article on the Washington Post that talks about this, the Pew research that I mentioned earlier. And this Washington Post article separated the actions of the politicians from the actions of the people. And our politicians are certainly more polarized than like 20 years ago. There's no doubt about that. There's ample evidence from voting records and things like that. But the people, their views, this article argued that like they are not all that much more polarized compared to 20 years ago. And I think there is still reason for hope. And whenever you see common ground, I think you should seize it. Like things like music and parenting, there's a common ground that cut across the political spectrum. I'm from a part of India called Tamil Nadu, and we speak a language there called Tamil. And I like to go to YouTube and listen to Tamil music. Most of them are uploaded with extremely scant regard for copyright, but that's a different story. And YouTube allows you to post comments underneath the video. And one of these comments was from a person in Pakistan. And next to one of my favorite Tamil music videos, this Pakistani person had written something like, I don't understand a word of this, but I love the music, it's great. And YouTube also allows you to like respond to people's comments, like you can comment on a comment. And this comment from the Pakistani person had 43 responses, all of them from Indians and all of them positive, saying like, awesome that you live across the border and you appreciate our music, etc. And even if you're not familiar with geopolitics, you should be aware that India and Pakistan are not like totally chummy with each other. There is firing across the border fairly frequently. And the average Indian does not hold a particularly high opinion of Pakistan, and vice versa. There's this huge ball of negative energy between these two countries. And yet this one comment took a piece of that negative energy and just crushed it forever. And I think it's important to reach across and build these bridges. I'm a liberal, I admit it freely, but I'm very interested in hearing from people who don't think like me. There is not much chance that you're going to change my views, and there's not much chance that I'm going to change your views. I want to acknowledge that. But I want us to talk to each other and listen to each other. And if you are one such person with a conservative bent, please reach out to me, and I promise to be a good listener. Thank you.